Welcome back to this week's edition of the Torah Podcasts. This week's Parsha is Parshas Yisro. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Send it out to your friends. Help us be Marbitz Torah. This week's Parsha is Parshas Yisro. Pasuk says, Vayishma Yisro, and Yisro heard. Yisro heard and came running out to join Klal Yisrael. Frek Rashi, the first Rashi, this week's Parsha. What did Yisro hear? Milchamas Amalek. He heard about the battle with Amalek and Kriyas Yamsuf, and the splitting of the sea. Rashi asks a very interesting question. When exactly did Yisro come? It says, Vayi mimocharas. It was on the next day. When exactly? Which day is it that Yisro finally showed up? So Rashi tells us that he showed up after Har Sinai. Although in the reading of the text, it seems like Yisro might have showed up before Har Sinai, but Rashi says, no, the Torah is not in chronological order, and really he showed up afterwards. The Ramban has a very strong question on Rashi, which is that if so, how come he wasn't inspired by Har Sinai? Very strong question. He was inspired by Milchamas Amalek and inspired by Kriyas Yamsuf, but he was not inspired by Har Sinai? Rather, says the Ramban, no, the Torah is in chronological order in this instance. Yisro really did show up before Har Sinai. There's a very, no matter how you slice it, either way, we're going to have to figure out why it is that the Torah needed us to understand Yisro's entrance into Klal Yisrael right before the Kabbalas Torah. Why is it that the Torah went out of its way to tell us that Yisro came right before Matan Torah? What do we need to know? Especially if it technically didn't even happen until after. Says all of the Musar masters, and most specifically Rabbi Yerucham. There's something called being a Shemea Techachos. It's called having a listening ear. Shemea Techachos we normally understand Shema to mean to listen, to understand, to adhere to be inspired by. Rabbi Yerucham says, but there's also the very basic understanding of the word. Shema means to hear. It means to listen. In the most basic definition of hearing, to open up your ears and listen to something. Not necessarily do you even understand it, but just to pay attention to it. To remove that waxy buildup that we have. To understand and to listen to what's going on. There's a concept called having an oizen shemas. It's one of the memches kinyanei Torah. To have a listening ear. One of the few ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created a way for ideas or inspiring thoughts to penetrate our exoskeleton of a body that we have and finally reach our soul. One of those ways is through our ears. It's so important to pay attention to things. How often do we go about throughout our day completely involved in something that prevents us from being inspired by things? How often can we just continue on with our day and be so stiff-necked, be am kishay oref, that we just don't even let ourselves be inspired by things? Sitting by onegs, learning Torah, davening, constantly distracted. In the most simplest level, and this is because last year we discussed the idea of listening and understanding, this year we're going to discuss the most basic level of just paying attention to. To be sheime'ah, to be physically present. There's a concept advanced by Reb Simcha Bunim Cohen, and he's quoting his Rebbe Victor Miller in the book on mourning during the 3 weeks, about how there's a Gemara in Saita Daf Mem Tes. It is a Gemara in 49b that in the end of days before Mashiach, one of the ultimate disasters, one of the signs of Mashiach is coming, is that there will be a lack of musar, a lack of criticism. Now, the Gemara goes a step further and says, He mekar kol churban. This is the root of all destruction. And that's because as people, we naturally need an outer source. We need someone else to be able to help us out, to tell us our flaws. We run around throughout our day trying to stay away from people that give us musar, to stay away from people that tell us things that we're doing wrong. But in the Torah's eyes, perhaps those are the people that should be crowned as our best friend. Those are the people that actually seem to really care for us. To be a shemea techachos means to be affected by something. It means to be someone who's malleable. It means to be somebody who's not afraid to be inspired, to open up your ears, to become a Yisro. How's it possible that everyone in the world saw Kriyas Yamsuf, as we know that if you were holding a cup of water in China, the water in your cup split because everyone knew that Hashem Hu Ha'elikim and that he split the water for the Jews, but all the water in the world split. And only one person did tshuva. Only one person came running to join the Jews. There was only one Shemea. But perhaps the question's the answer. Can't be distracted. You have to pay attention to things. You have to be inspired by things. You have to be affected by something to just open up to things. We constantly have binging and notifications and things that are distracting our attention. It's so important to be physically present, to allow ourselves to be inspired. This concept needed to be said right before Har Sinai, because even Har Sinai wouldn't inspire people. It would eventually fade away, that inspiration, if we didn't know the Vayishma Yisro. You have to open up your ears and pay attention and allow yourself to be affected. The Torah might be not chronologically in order here, but we needed to know that Yisro came running because he paid attention to what was happening. We needed to know that without you paying attention to things, you could see the greatest miracles in the world and be unaffected by it. We all need to use this tactic, to have a listening ear. Pay attention to things. Pay attention to trees. Pay attention to nature, the human body, Torah, what you're learning, what you're davening, your friends. To not be so distracted. Vayishma Yisro. It's a concept we need to know going into Kabbalah Torah. A Moiridik Shabbos, we all should be zoicha to acquire this listening ear.